lovely.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Feeling fabulous. I was so, can I just tell you, the pop down from last night was real.
After the marathon Instagram session.
After the marathon. It was so much fun and such an interesting experience. A lot of excitement, as you would have seen, and just so just to share with you that I did set the tone or the context earlier for the differences between last night's conversation and tonight's conversation.
Yeah.
In that everybody that I've had on tonight is actually either a licensed psychologist or a certified coach. And the reason why we took that path is because we were talking more about the hard knocks approach last night, where everybody just kind of, they might figure it out as them go along, and I try and take them hand-on fashion.
Yeah.
Whereas tonight we really wanted to offer the opportunity for persons to get expert tools that they can use as they are traversing the space of uncertainty, the space of dealing with having to make shifts, the space of illness, because I think one of the things that we haven't, I know we talk about cases and we talk about deaths, but I don't know people talking about wellness. I don't hear people talking about how many people have recovered and are doing well and are on the other side, and you and I are sister survivors, and so we have that amazingness in common, and I think one of the things that you have learned is just about creating that, not just surviving but that thriving,
which you're always talking about.
Yes, sir. Right. And I really wanted to dig into that in this session, because I fear that people are so focused on the current situation, because there's you can't go a day without talking about COVID.
Yeah.
And so yesterday I really wanted to shift the conversation, which we managed to do for several hours. And my thing is, today, let's shift a little bit further. Let's talk about how we thrive despite, or how we thrive beyond, So just sharing a little bit of your story, and then just kind of talking about some of the tools that either you use or you recommend in the different spheres that you work with now in terms of overcoming personal tragedy.
So for as it relates to breast cancer, my story is that I am a 7-year survivor come this October, Stacey. So you're 3 years ahead of me. So I was diagnosed at age 30 with breast cancer, and it was a literal shot out of the blue. No family history. Of course, you're not looking for that. Right. And then back then you kind of had the kind of fallacy thinking that if you barely have breasts like I do, then, you are less likely to get breast cancer. I was like, I'm not doing no breast self-examination because clearly, not much happening up there. And so I ended up having a symptom, and that was persistent itching. And so because of that, I was scratching and discovered a lump. And so I started the whole journey, did the whole thing, chemotherapy, then had surgery, and, all the emotions that came along with that kind of journey. And one of the things for me, Stacey, that moved me from where I was to where I think I am now, as you like to say, us thriving, is that sense of purpose and that sense of focusing on future. In a time when it was really uncertain, because there were times when you weren't sure yet what stage the cancer was, what the prognosis was. But I had this sense that, listen, it can sound morbid to some people, but this sense that, God brought me here for a particular purpose. And until that's accomplished, I feel he's going to keep me around, right? So it was that purpose that I had to dig deeper into, Stacey, to kind of figure out, okay, what am I supposed to be doing here? What do I love? What fills my joy jar? What makes me feel alive? And do more of those things. So as it turns out, I was on an entrepreneurial journey in bridal, had a bridal boutique, and the excitement of serving the bride's needs and playing dolly house is what I used to call it, right? Playing professional dolly house. Yes. That pretty much got me through each day, moving on. And then tapping into gratitude and purpose now kind of moved me from, in terms of the medium to long-term journey.
Yeah, wow. So one of the things that I think you actually mentioned here is about, what fills my joy jar. Yeah. And I don't know that people are doing that activity now. I don't think people are really focusing on what brings me joy enough, because they're bombarded by the news there. And even if you don't watch news, you can't escape it. If you're on Instagram, if you're on your WhatsApp, whatever medium it is, whatever channel wherever you focus, Twitter even worse, the constant feed is all about the conversation. So how do we deliberately create that joy jar? How do we deliberately create space in our minds for that type of thing?
And you're so right, Stacey. I think many of us have gone into survival mode.
Yes,
and so thriving almost seems like, it's a little bit, what should I say, unrealistic, or it's a little bit maybe too ambitious in this time. Yes. But I feel as though one of the ways that we can even start that journey is by delving into gratitude. I think gratitude is a tremendous vehicle to move us, from a survival space into a thriving space. So for me, going through breast cancer, Stacey, losing my hair, all the other things that come, them, the doctor's visits, which were not always pleasant, the expense associated with going through the breast cancer journey, the fear of, am I going to lose my life? Am I going to lose my breast? All this type of thing. I came to a place where I had to tap into gratitude. And so I had to realize that, Kamala, as bad as your situation is right now, there are some women and men who wished that this was their journey, even through breast cancer, that your prognosis or your ability, I had health insurance, for example, thankfully, right. Even that makes your situation not the typical, right? And so some people would kill to have this kind of a, set of resources. And so that started to help me, Stacey, to move through. I could literally count out the things that I had. I had a support system that was rock solid. They were unflinching. So similarly, now going through COVID and having the fears of, am I going to contract the virus? Am I going to lose my job? It definitely helps. And it's one of the practices I share with people in terms of coping with COVID is tap into gratitude. Let's start there. For example, Stacey, we're going through a pandemic and you and I are sitting in a house. That is something that many of us take for granted. You know what I mean? Yes, there are so many people who have very vulnerable living conditions, physically vulnerable living conditions. Yes. People are homeless. So imagine not having that sense of security. It's a basic human need in a time like this.
Yes. When we say stay at home, actually it's more of an annoyance. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to stay in my house. I can't get to hang with my friends. I can't, we actually really don't get you have a home.
Yes.
We don't get that at the most basic level, which is wow. Yeah.
So many people don't even have that very basic level. On the Maslow's hierarchy, those are the survival things, physical safety, having access to food, that type of thing. So many of us have kind of jumped over that and gone into, I'm feeling bored. And I'm not minimizing any particular response because all of them are valid. I want to make that clear. But I feel as though gratitude, no matter what your situation, can be a powerful kind of pivoting place, transformational place to then move into, okay, I'm grateful for this. Therefore, I feel as though I can dare to think beyond COVID. I can dare to think about my plans that I've had for the last 2 to 3 years or 6 months, still having a chance to come to fruition. And I can start to go there mentally, and I can start to do things that get me closer to that, in as much as lies in our power. And in so doing, we can start to move closer and closer to thriving.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, wow. That's really, really good. Okay. So let's talk about that thriving piece now, because I think one of the areas that I've kind of been experiencing are the opportunities that exist in this entire thing. Like I've just been, I feel, attracting a lot of things I haven't been even able to act on because just from a time perspective, I just don't have the capacity. Yeah, right. I just don't have the capacity. But I really think something has to be said for opportunities that are available or are possible, not even available. People keep talking about losing work, but other people are also hiring.
Yeah.
Right. How do we start to kind of get into that mindset of how do I find opportunities? Like, when you were going through your process, you were at the time creating a company for yourself, right? How did you move beyond feeling like this is going to stop me from fulfilling my dream? Like, were there things that you did after being grateful? Were there things that you were doing to help yourself to move forward? Like, were there new things that you were attracting that were different than what you started out with? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So I like to talk about pivoting a lot and reframing. And reframing is a tool that you hear coaches and therapists talk about a lot, where we kind of try to step out of a situation and spin it around 360 and look at it from every angle and find the positives to it. Yeah. So I had to do a lot of reframing. And before I even got to reframing, Stacey, I had to start from a place of introspection. I had to spend time with myself. I had to face the negative emotions like Sonia talked about earlier and sit with them and not be afraid of them and not demonize them. And that's a parallel between that journey and even the COVID journey for many of us, because we're having a lot of negative emotions, but we kind of feel sometimes it's too vulnerable, or we feel ashamed to share with people that I'm feeling anxious.
Yeah.
And also
there is shame around the sadness, and it's like almost like you feel like, especially women, it's like we feel like we're supposed to put up this strong front
at all times,
or be the strong supporting shoulder for people to cry on, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
And then additional to that now, or even I would say twin to that whole situation of the pivoting, the reframing, is that a part of our journey now too is that some people have been avoiding, for whatever reasons, spending time with self. And so COVID in many ways is resulting, causing, forcing, whatever you want. So whichever one you want to choose, I'm going to choose resulting in many of us having to go home to ourselves is what I call it. Yeah. And so now, similar to my journey, I had, it's forcing us to sit with the emotions. What does this mean? What am I really afraid of? Why have I been shelving this particular dream of mine? Year after year, I have it on my, what's the word, on my resolutions list. And then by April, it's on. Yes. Yep. Now keep again after April.
Yes, New Year's done a resolution. Now, you know what though? Can I just tell you that this is like a universal reset, because we've never had a year, because everybody had 2020 plans and 2020.
The new decade is going to be epic.
Right? And then boom, we're dropping a COVID
pandemic.
And it's like, I think a lot of persons shelved their dreams, shelved their resolution, and all they can do is think, well, it's just like this experience that I'm creating now. What I've been able to do over the last couple of days to celebrate my anniversary has been 1,000 times what I would have been able to do if I had a private event.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you. And that's a powerful reframe. I don't know if you shared or if you have experienced or care to share what your emotional journey was like when you saw that, I was supposed to launch the book, I was supposed to do so and so, and here comes this pandemic. Nobody not travel, we can't have in-person events. And then if you had a moment of saying, but hold on a minute, there's an opportunity in there. You know what I mean? So I feel like,
and a lot of, interestingly, a lot of fear came up for me in the opportunity. Because, I love to help people and I love to support what people are doing. And even though I've been in the forefront for a couple of years now, I still experience a lot of that fear around being in the forefront. I'm much happier being a corporate, happier from the perspective of it doesn't require much of me. It's easy for me to do, but when you have to call 15, 16, 18 women and 20 and say, hey, you're a part of my life, and can you support, like doing that for me was stepping into discomfort, sending out messages on Facebook blind messaging people. Like, I mean, I even asked my team, a couple of persons on my team, can you just send the message over there to this person, please? Because of that, I'm taking a step beyond what is comfortable. And even though it seems, I tell people to do it all the time. I mean, literally, I'm about to start a whole course that's going to tell people to go and do exactly what I've been doing.
Awesome.
It's easier for me to tell people to do that as opposed to me taking it on myself and doing that natural reframing and saying, oh, well, I could just pick up and do this. But you have to take that step. You have to take that step beyond that feeling of discomfort that you get. They're going to say no, and I did have some rejections, not from the persons I asked to participate with me, like my co-hosts. That was a result. That's why yesterday ended up being so long, because everybody said yes.
Yeah.
But when I reached out to certain persons about inviting their groups, because I participate in a lot of groups, a lot of them said no, and it was like, okay, so we're gonna keep this party anyway.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly, Stacey. So going back to the parallels between the journey, the pivoting, the reframing, and also forcing ourselves lovingly, holding ourselves accountable to sitting with the emotions and figuring out what they mean. And then now, Stacey, for the sake of our big pictures, like, have we created a big picture for our lives? I feel as though every time we come into a situation where illness is real, the possibility of death is real, breast cancer, COVID, you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It forces us to move beyond the morbidity of thinking about our lives from the standpoint of my life is going to end one day, you understand? It forces us to sit with it and say, okay, what am I doing in these however many days I'm going to have left?
Yeah.
And so that was a huge part of my journey to say, okay, I want my life to look like this. So you talk about intentions. Intentionality was a big part of my, of my process. Daring to say, I really want to do this. There are going to be some challenges. I'm not going to feel like doing it every day. However, because of my convictions about what my life should look like, because of my convictions about my purpose and who I should be helping and what I should be doing, I have to do it. I'm compelled, and moving towards that regardless of the barriers. Now, imagine if it's a space where we're just kind of moving ad hoc, Stacey, where we just go with the flow. We just wake up, the regular. You understand? I feel as though to move towards greatness and thriving, we have to become we have to get over a love for the regular. I don't even know if that's like academically right, but you get what I mean, right? We have to shun it.
I think Terry's word last night was journaler. Even though
journaler.
I don't know if it's really a word, but hey, okay, yeah. We have to get on. Say it again. With the regular, uncomfortable.
Yeah, we have to get over it. We have to be over it. Like, listen.
Regular.
Yeah, there is a level beyond just the regular living 9-to-5 grind.
Yeah.
And in as much as I always want to coach our intentions and our ambitions and our desires from a sense of compassion, self-compassion, from a sense of giving ourselves permission to take rest, because I don't want us to become crazy. I don't want us to become, at the other end of the extreme. But I believe that, once we become clear on what it is that we really are here for, then it becomes a better place now from which we can pursue, from which we can say, yo, people are gonna tell me no, but hear what? It's gonna happen because it has to happen. Like, my purpose is bigger than everything else. My purpose is bigger than my fear of rejection. My purpose is bigger than my fear of public speaking.
My purpose is bigger than my fear of rejection. I forgot to write that for something. I put it up something.
For something.
I don't even know. I don't know where that came from. My fear of rejection, and it's a common fear. It's not like it's uncommon.
I think all of us have some of it.
Yeah,
I definitely have it. Yep.
I think where I checked myself on it was when I went to Oprah, her 2024. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she had the guest that she had on the session I went to was Lady Gaga. Mm-hmm. And when she brought out, this is big Oprah now. When she brought out Lady Gaga, she started off by saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're here. I was so afraid to call and ask."
Wow. Oprah. Listen.
Okay, first of all, you got Lady Gaga on your phone. Like, she's in your
Listen.
Okay.
That's a privileged position. It start there.
Right. And so one of the things that I've been doing with that, because and it's interesting because she shared many ahas and gems on that day, but that stuck with me because I know that a lot of my pivoting around being online and sharing in this space and connecting with my community is about the ask. Is about because you can't become yourself by yourself, people.
Ooh, that's tweetable. That's a tweetable, Stacey.
Yes.
You can't become yourself by yourself.
Become yourself by yourself. You do have to interact with others. Even if you say you're not going to get help from a person, if you're going to be selling something or sharing something, your ask is going to be of a wider community. You're going to ask them for their time. You're going to ask them for their attention. In some instances, you may ask them for their money, right? There is going to be at some point an ask. And so in knowing that we are all here to build each other up, to lift each other up and through, because it's not always up. Sometimes it's just through, right? Help each other to move through. Then you know that everybody has an ask. Yeah. I have an ask of you, and you will in return have an ask of me. In the same way that I'm creating something that is of value, your ask of me is to give you that thing that is of value. And there's an exchange there, right? And so the persons who are supposed to be on the other side of that ask saying yes are the ones that will. And you don't worry about the ones that aren't going to be.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's such an important thing to remember that somebody's unwillingness or inability to participate in your life does not make you invalid, and it doesn't make your dreams invalid.
Oh, that's good. That's
because good. I mean, using the title of Michelle Obama's book, I believe that our becoming is bigger than any one person. You get me?
That's good. I've been hearing becoming gems. Like last night, there was a couple of them, and that one is huge. You know, our becoming
is. Let me see if I can remember. Our becoming is bigger than any one person's participation in our lives.
Our becoming is bigger than any one person's participation in our lives. And so when we're thinking about survival, and I don't know, I use the word survival because it's something that speaks to you have to survive before you can thrive.
Yes, agreed.
Right? It's not because that's where it stops. It's because that's where it starts. And surviving the day-to-day is a part of your becoming.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And your wellness is also a huge part. People just miss that whole segment of life. I miss it.
Yes. And a part of surviving COVID-19, even though I hate to use the word sometimes, like I feel over it as well, but surviving COVID-19 is hugely dependent in many ways on us being intentional about our wellness.
Yes.
And I feel as though these are some of the gems that we need to hold on to when life opens up again, so to speak. I came across this quote, Stacey, that I'm putting it everywhere. The quote says, in our rush to return to normal, let's take the time to figure out which parts of normal are worth returning to. In our rush to return to normal, let's take the time to figure out or to decide or to become intentional about which parts of normal are worth returning to.
Yes.
And I feel as though this time, if it is that we want to thrive, like Stacey's message is all about, listen, thriving beyond breast cancer, right? 10 years and going even stronger, right? Coming harder for the next decade of survival. For us to get to thrive, we absolutely have to reach that point where we are intentional. And I love that Stacey's all about misintentions, right? We have to become intentional about our lives. And I feel like now during COVID, it can be difficult, but it's doable. And I feel as though becoming intentional about our life stays is also a piece of self-care. We're not just living from day to day, but we want to tap into the true reason why we're here, why we're in the earth. If you believe in God, why God make you?
You know, it's like, I think when we talk about the ultimate pause, that we are experiencing now. I think a lot of people are at home working from home and probably working more, right?
Yes.
And some people are at home, they may have lost their jobs or they're on forlorn, they're not necessarily working right now. But I think people are more consumed with Netflixing, binging on all of the different things and that them eating, if they can get, what they want to eat. And worrying about what they don't have, missing who they can't see, missing the experiences I don't know that we are really being intentional about using the pause, because the pause will lift up, it will unpause, and it would serve us to come out with a new perspective on how we can experience our purpose, on how we can really move forward with what is within us. We know it's a great time for that self-reflection and that work. I started Netflixing when I first came home because I'm horrible with it. I'm horrible with doing Netflix well.
Okay.
Horrible with doing Netflix well, right? I'm horrible at not doing. I'm learning how to just chill and
how to be.
Yeah, but I took on The Crown, which was recommended and I started to binge watch The Crown, and there are many instances where it was like a schedule, even the binging, I scheduled it. It was like, okay, so we're gonna, because I know that there's just other things. And when I was faced with doing a virtual event, it was like, okay, The Crown virtual event. So it seems
gonna be?
It seems simple, guys, but that's where it starts. It's like it starts with not hesitating around moving towards that purpose that's there, and looking at, boy, the thoughts are gonna come. The brain is programmed to say to you, these are all the things that are happening that are gonna prevent you from. And the goal is, okay, see that and then keep going anyway. Move past the hesitation.
Yeah, and I love the lineup that I caught tonight in terms of Sonia coming and talking about the emotional processing, because again, we have to coach it, especially as a therapist, we have to coach it from the standpoint of, okay, do not feel too much pressure to be super intentional about every single thing, because the fact that we have to be mindful of the fact that we're experiencing a huge life-changing situation. It's a pandemic.
Yes.
And to leave room for the emotionality. But if we can reframe this experience as a gift, within a horrible bigger picture, but there is the possibility of tapping into that gift of time to self-reflect. And not everybody has as much time. Let's be clear on that too, So again, your context is different, but exercise self-compassion, but also just look at the fact that generally speaking, it's good for us to give ourselves the gift of intentionality. Having some kind of pause, as you mentioned that word, Stacey, generally in life is a part of wellness. And that pause, let's not rush to fill it with everything else, to fill it with, conversation, to fill it with social media, but to learn how to pause generally. And especially now, if you can, to look into what does life mean to me, and what do I want it to look like? And having the courage to say, I believe I deserve to have that life, because deservingness, Stacey, is a whole nother life conversation. Feeling as though we deserve the lives that we have on our vision boards. Yes. Feeling as though we deserve the lives that we have been sketching about since 2010 is another piece of the story. So again, the emotional work of unpacking our fears, our insecurities about what we have and what we should have and what we can have, in order to move to where ultimately you feel as though that's my highest level of living. And if you don't know what your highest level of living is, how are you going to know what you need to do to get there? So there needs to be that big picture, which I call purpose. There are many different words for it, but having a sense of, why do I do what I do? And why I started off talking about the feeling of the joy jar is because oftentimes that gives us a clue as to what our purpose is. And it's important too to remember that give yourself the permission to own a purpose that doesn't look like somebody else's. Or a purpose that looks a little unusual, unorthodox. Because enough times, Stacey, we're trying to make it fit into everybody on Instagram who we follow, into their purpose picture. Come on, sister, let's have church real quick, right? Before we jump off, right? Sometimes we feel as though, I don't see nobody else doing no live book launch and no live nothing. So which part we go with this?
Let me tell you.
Hello.
Kamala, I had that thought about 100 times.
I believe you, Stacey. I get it because I've been there. I know it.
And I had the thought about who's going to come? Like, you know, like you've been writing this book forever. People tired to hear about you write this book. It come in a newspaper, how much time I know the book can drop, you know. And then when I started having problems with the print on demand on Amazon, because Kindle, you know, you have to actually work through a process to get it on Amazon, right? So the Kindle one came through, got approved, and we kept getting rejections on the paperback version, right? And I'm like, okay, paperback now come true. What that mean? That means I can't do something because people can't get. And then every single time a message comes to me about where can I get the paperback version, it's like my head just set me, you know. But guess what? We did it anyway,
girl.
Right? We're doing it anyway, and that's the point. Is that your vision for yourself, even if it is that you see somebody over there and say, oh, that look cool. When you take on doing something, it is yours.
Thank you.
Right? Your unique fingerprint is now on it, and it can't be that other person's over theirs.
Thank you very much.
You know, it just can't.
It just can't be, and it should not be.
Yes.
So if you start looking at our purpose almost as a person, right? I feel as though we'll have more respect for it in terms of how we treat it. Like step out and externalize it. I will not force you to look like somebody else, because you are an extension, a reflection of me. You were gifted to me by my creator, right? And as I mentioned, it's tied to my experiences, my giftings, the people I'm called to serve, just so unique in its setup. And so even knowing people are losing their jobs to Stacey, I feel as though purpose may seem again ambitious. But I want to tell somebody on this live tonight that purpose is bigger than a job, that purpose is bigger than a career. Purpose is bigger than having a job or keeping a job.
Yes.
I mean, I have learned to pivot professionally a couple times well, and I've had some deep distresses on the journey. But however, I feel as though I'm now in a space where I can see the fruits of it, where I am on a journey of creating the magical life that I have always wanted. But it took courage to let go of the traditionalness of, you know, the 9 to 5 looking this way and this way only, and earning looking this way and this way only. So for those persons who are on, who may be in a professionally insecure space, you may have lost your job or it's uncertain, can we just talk about how earning is bigger than sitting in an office? Hello. You understand?
Right. Yes, absolutely. And what I think has been ushered in, especially for Jamaicans and people in the Caribbean region in general, what has been ushered in is an appreciation for virtual work.
Thank you.
Where it was not before, it didn't exist before. And so now with that appreciation comes now the possibility thinking of, well, how can I now create a new vision for myself with work? Even if I have a store and I'm reopening that store, what can I do online that is going to help to make that scalable or make that grow, you know? So,
and can I just add one point there, Stacey, that the world is bigger than Jamaica.
Yes.
And so there are many needs globally that if we are careful and compassionate with ourselves to sit down and say, let me learn about what's happening outside of my office, what the needs are globally, we can create some opportunities or take advantage of some opportunities. Yeah, absolutely. But it takes intentionality.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So thank you. Thank you, Kamala. I don't remember what you had decided to gift, if it was a course or if it was a product, because you actually didn't even talk about the fact that you created a whole product line.
That was so intentionality in terms of
care and all of that. So
yeah,
what would you like? What was it that you? I know you made a note about it, but I can't remember. I want you to speak to what it is that you're offering as your gift for our community.
That's a good question, Stacey. I think I'd like to offer maybe 2 or 3 free coaching sessions with one lucky member of the community. Yeah.
Wow. That's nice. Not how we need it.
Let's get our purpose situation and our insecurities and self-sabotage thoughts, like, let's throw those out. So if you want to sit with me and work through them, Stacey will hook you up. Stacey will choose the winner, right? Looking forward to working with somebody from your tribe to get us into that place of power and intentionality.
Oh, oh gosh, can I just tell you, I'm just so blessed by all of my amazing friends.
Stacey, thank you for pushing through and doing this, by the way. Like, it really is a beautiful thing to watch. And I'm glad that you stuck out and said self-sabotage be gone. It's a keep, right? So I'm glad to you keep it.
Thank you so much, Kamala. Thank you for joining. It's been really, really wonderful having you. And I'm here for your wellness. I'm here for all of the amazing things that you're doing. And I will see you soon. I will see you
Much
soon.
love, darlings.
All right.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.